Mtu akishikwa aseme ya kwamba ameshikwa kwa sababu ya siasa, ameshikwa kwa sababu ya kuchochea. Na tayari mumeona ya kwamba mimi sitakosa kuchukua hatua kwa anybody who incites hate speech.
Good evening. The president has found his voice and is vowing action. To be clear, the head of state says he will act and act decisively on hate mongers. The president says he will arrest hate mongers and throw them in jail. Let's listen to the heads of state.
Well, it is good to know that the head of state has such sweeping powers and powers to act. But are these powers only restricted to fighting political hate mongers? Can these powers also fight, say, corruption? Something that every single Kenyan knows is hurting this country.
Well, it is on that basis that we ask you tonight, do you think President Uhuru Kenyatta has powers to fight corruption? Do you think President Uhuru Kenyatta has powers to fight corruption? Tweet me at Dion Sarigo, at JemSmart. But first, the highlights at this hour.
Hata mjumbe wako wangu mwenyewe Katundu nilishika na akafungwa ndani. Kwa hivyo kama naweza kufunga yangu, nitafunga mwingine. Ya? Na watu wasiseme ni siasa. Si ni kweli?
I will not be in the presidential race. My people know where they want to cast their vote, and I'm telling them yes, it is okay to vote me governor in Kenya and to support the president in Jubilee.
It is not the responsibility of us as a committee to take information from another committee. So since the PS told us he did not write a letter and he has not changed, I would like us to stick to what he told us, that he did not write a letter unless he withdraws because he is here, unless he wants to change.
Good evening and welcome to News Sources. Now, President Uhuru Kenyatta has finally found his voice, and it is a decisive and clear one. The head of state says he will arrest and jail all political hate mongers before the next general election. Uhuru says hate speech has absolutely no place in this country as it threatens peaceful coexistence.
Unataka nifanye nini jameni? That I have not done.
Mtu akishikwa aseme ya kwamba ameshikwa kwa sababu ya siasa, ameshikwa kwa sababu ya kuchochea. Na tayari mumeona ya kwamba mimi sitakosa kuchukua hatua kwa anybody who incites hate speech. Hata mjumbe wako wangu mwenyewe Katundu nilishika na akafungwa ndani. Kwa hivyo kama naweza kufunga yangu, nitafunga mwingine. Ya? Na watu wasiseme ni siasa. Si ni kweli?
Well, that's where News Sources starts today. Dennis Onsarigo, host of the program. Rajab Ramadan from The Star, and Danish Odongo from Capital FM.
Yes.
Gentlemen, here we are. Newfound voice, head of state, finally speaking tough, saying the things that the head of state should be saying, Dennis. This is stuff that we're looking for, stuff like the president.
Smart. This stuff is what President Uhuru Kenyatta has been saying for the last 4 years now. He always comes across as very, very forceful and very, very combative. And this is the first time I'm seeing him after some short while since he went quote-unquote mad at Bomas of Kenya to dress down opposition leader Raila Odinga. But well spoken.
Well spoken. Mr. President. Danish,
Yes.
here's the thing. The whole corruption talk for the last, I believe, 3 or so weeks has been, so inundating. It's been, so engulfing this country. And somehow the president has not found his voice about corruption. But on the issue of hate mongers, it's very clear and very decisive.
I think for me, as a communication student, I think the president needs to act. No more talking, no more issuing threats, no more giving us nice speeches. I think we are tired of that. That one is like we're being overfed on that. Now all we want to see is action and action and action. For how long will you talk, President Uhuru Kenyatta? For how long will you issue fancy speeches and issue threats that are empty and they've got nothing in them except nice English acquired probably on Dennis Pritt Road.
Rajab, I was not expecting, Danish to go that way, but here's the thing, yeah, we want to speak about, these hate crimes, and he makes reference to this question of these 6 or so MPs that were arrested, a few months ago over hate speech, and makes the claim that if I could arrest, an MP from my very own backyard, from Jubilee, it's possible for me to arrest anyone else, and for that being the reason, should not, be thought that I'm playing politics with this.
I really doubt if the president really means what he says, especially when he's on the public or on a podium addressing people, because his actions are so opposite of what he says when he's on a podium. Because if he speaks about arresting, these cases have not even proceeded. The guy is still walking free, still is in fact a master of hate monger. He's God MP. But this guy, the case, and enforce the law.
And I think if my memory serves me right, I think it's not fair for us to just take credit for what we did not do. Let's give credit to Kenyans on Twitter who actually forced pressure on the government to actually act on those hate mongers. And they were from both two political spectrums. It was more for political show. It was more for the public limelight, for their thirst to be quenched in the meantime, even as they strategize to come and then unleash them back to the public limelight to go and spew more venom. So let's not try to be excited over arrest for 2 days at Pangani police station. Then now we're saying we now prosecuted. But without a prosecution, without somebody eating maharagwe in Kodiaga prison, or some of these maximum prisons in Naivasha and whatever, it doesn't matter. It is still talk, and talk is cheap.
Dennis, there's something that the head of state is on here. There's something that he's clearly saying I can act, and this is, hate mongers, the hate crimes. Should we be applauding him for at least finally acting? Because we ask him to act all the time, and finally he gets something that says, this thing I can act on. I can act on decisively.
Smart. One first, I don't know where the president is coming from with this.
It springs from nowhere.
We don't have any case to precede what the president is talking about. I saw him speak about it, and I said this man was overseeing a fundraiser, I think at Like Origins, if I'm not wrong, and then he speaks about hate speech. Where does this come from? But you will understand, the president is trying to set the stage for something that we don't understand. But I think it will become clear as we go forward, because the interior CS also spoke about the same. So it's something that must have been discussed somewhere. One, either to divert attention or to get the president back on track.
Ramadan, do you need a diversion of attention? Because the central question in this country today is corruption. We're talking about healthcare later on. We're talking about NYS. Corruption is the big story.
I think for me, it's when I watched the clip when he was speaking. I saw a man who is keen on trying to, you see, people speaking about corruption. They are viewed within his political party, the president's political party, as hate mongers. They are called haters. So I think it's one way or a trick of saying now we'll crack down on those ones who are spewing hate, which is speaking about corruption. That's what I viewed from him. But I doubt if because even the context of his speech, you can't contextualize all of it.
Can you help with the context? What exactly are you talking about here?
For me, actually, I think...
What was the context?
There's nobody in that political party, or in those two political parties, nobody has a moral right to actually lecture anybody on hate mongering or speaking about peace, because they themselves, polarize the nation by the words they speak. So I'd actually be more happy if I see the head of state leading the way by actually demonstrating what he's saying. And that means that when he holds the microphone, he actually speaks like a statesman. He actually inspires people to come together on a table of peace, on a table of brotherhood, to actually break bread and say, by the way, we are brothers, even though you're from this part of the country. But we cannot be warning people while we ourselves in our party, our own closet is full of skeletons. I think it's absolutely outrageous.
That is, finally, as you go to your point, the question that we want to ask is this. Simply, can the president act on hate crimes and it will not be conflicting if he does not have the same powers, say, to act on corruption?
Smart, it cannot, but I'll tell you why. Well, it will be noted that the question of hate crime versus the question of corruption has been with us for a long time now, but the head of state famously a few weeks ago said he has no powers to deal with corruption since those powers are with independent officers. Well, the fight against crime also is in the hands of the former Speaker of the National Assembly, Kaparo's Commission. The question begs, Danish, what does the president want?
It's amazing how we are able to shift goalposts based on what favors us. If 5 billion allegedly get lost in a department, then we say we no longer have powers to prosecute people who are allegedly corrupt. And actually, they can go ahead to get gold membership in our parties. But then when it comes to hate mongering, we then say that, oh, by the way, I'm going to be very tough on you guys. So what is more of a threat to our nation than corruption? What is it that is draining us and eating us like cancer than corruption? So if we need to see concerted efforts and dedication in the fight, it must be on the front of corruption. Anything else is a diversionary tactic that most Kenyans must be angry enough and say we will not accept any diversionary tactics from the head of the state.
Smart, this is the president whose sister and cousin have been dragged into this Ministry of Health scandal, and the president has come out to he has not come out to defend his family, he has not come out to defend his cousins, but his henchmen are out there defending this health scandal, saying it was an interim report. But you must understand, the president must be in a very bad place at the moment. So he's trying to tell us, can we guys move on then? Is the president trying to say, we can forget about this corruption for now, let's deal with this big issue of elections in 2017 and making sure that everyone speaks in one voice and we don't go fighting?
Sounds like it, Dennis. I pretty much feel the same. The evidence we have is Jubilee and the government are really uncomfortable speaking about corruption. A few days ago, we saw the Deputy President, William Ruto, 2 days going at former devolution CS. When Jubilee speaks about corruption, you can see the uneasiness, that they do not have a coherent narrative, a consistent message on corruption. So what happened today is an attempt to what Americans popularly call it, to pivot. They're trying to pivot away from the corruption story and say there's something else that we can deal with and we can distract you with. That's what I read, because on matters of hate crimes and hate mongers, we have absolutely nothing that is occupying and exercising our thoughts and minds, not in any newsroom, not in any family tonight. So it's just something that does not sit very well. It's
has corruption denied Jubilee a chance to speak about many other issues in this country, Ramadan?
No, but they're in government. So you can't say corruption has really made them not to speak about other issues. I expected today, when the president stands on that podium, to tell us what he's doing about his cousin, what he's doing, also declaring interest. He was told to declare interest in all these issues, on responding to national issues. That's what the president should be doing, not trying to throw threats around and he should be charting a course for the country, not trying to divert attention from the key issues that are affecting us. But today I had a discussion with the chair of Ombudsman, Otenda Molo, and he was telling me the problem affecting the country is not even corruption, it's impunity, where people do mistakes and say nothing will be done. The same thing, like the corruption scandals, even the hate mongers. When he says he'll jail them, jailing them does not mean putting them in cells.
Danish, is it about impunity, or it's about the fear of losing an election next year that has made the president suddenly turn around and say, one, Raila Odinga is a lot of poverty. Secondly, there's no corruption in my government. This is propaganda from the opposition. Thirdly, I'm your president. I'm going to fight hate mongers. That's what you most need. This country needs peace more than development.
Of course, Jubilee is lacking in the adrenaline and the drive they had in 2013. Then they were fighting the ICC shackles. But now they've got nothing to fight. They've got nothing to tell the people that, oh, by the way, these are the ones who took us to The Hague. Now they have nothing. Now they must come back to the old, tired narrative that some people are lords of poverty, or some people are like this, or some people like this. But Kenyans must rise up and sieve the message of the president and say that, my brother, you need to be consistent. Your voice of jailing hate mongers must be consistent with your voice of jailing corrupt officials, with your voice of standing up to unite the nation, with your voice of not allowing impunity to be in your government, because you cannot tell me that your cousin is disadvantaged and put in that category, and you don't speak about it, that you expect us to believe you and want to say you're jailed.
Cousins and brothers, what?
All right. Now, the situation is pretty much the same on the fight against graft. Independent offices and offices have been put in place constitutionally to deal with economic crimes. But here's the difference. In both cases, institutions have been placed to fight the vices, but the head of state is confident in giving instructions, on the one hand, of fighting political hatmongers, and on the other, he says his hands are tied. So listening to the argument he made on fighting graft a few weeks ago, we'll play that bite, much later. But here's the thing. just to make the difference, and finally to make the point on this. But on one end, a few weeks ago when we had, the president speak, he said, I have absolutely no powers, to fight corruption. I can't do anything because we have the Attorney General, we have ESCC, we have the DCI, we have all these people who should be fighting corruption, and OSHA General and the likes. Still, if you speak about hate mongers, we have Ole Kaparo and team, and we have the police and the DCI with the prosecution. Still the same setup. So what gives it the confidence for him to say, I can fight hate mongers, but I cannot fight corruption? Dennis.
Uhuru's regime is caught up in this madness called corruption, but it is not caught up in this madness called hate mongering because it squares out. Position is in it, the ruling coalition is in it, so the president has some leverage to talk about it. But when it comes to corruption, the president has no powers to fight corruption. Why? Because the president's men are engaged in corruption. You cannot fight your own. You're telling the president to arrest and jail his own. That's what you're trying to tell us. There's nothing the president can do about it.
That's pretty much what you're trying to say.
That's the message we're getting from. That's the message. Actually, he's only powerless when it comes to corruption.
Yep.
But everything else, like traveling abroad and exceeding the budget for traveling, and hosting state house summits and doing all this, manner of stuff we're doing to keep the public busy talking. He's all powerful when it comes to the one thing that is eating our nation and eating it to the core, corruption. He's powerless.
Rajab.
How convenient is that?
Rajab, do you think the president actually has powers to fight corruption? I know this country has been exercising its mind in the last possibly a month to try and figure out if actually the head of state has some powers to fight corruption.
There are reasons why people are elected to office. One of the reasons why President Uhuru is in the office today is to deal with all the maladies that are facing the nation. So he can't run away from any. And if he has to deal with it, he has to deal with it without excuses. When people were giving him a vote or they were swearing him in, we were not expected to receive excuses or escapist arguments of telling us about what powers he has and what powers he doesn't have. All these institutions, what they need is political goodwill, which they lack.
So what stops, Dennis, the DCI from investigating a case, a good case, presenting a good case that can be prosecuted by the prosecution prosecuting that case, and the judiciary, jailing someone? What stops them?
One, weak cases. Secondly, political goodwill. You have state officials in the name of the DCI who takes people to court for, one, abuse of office instead of corruption. I know former cabinet ministers who are suspended and later charged in court, not for corruption, but for abuse of office.
That points to incompetence. It doesn't point to political goodwill.
No, it's not incompetence.
That someone,
the stage has been set that way, that nothing stops the DPP, for example, from prosecuting these people. But the DPP cannot prosecute, for instance, Anne Waiguru, and I'm not saying she's corrupt. When the head of civil service writes a letter to media houses saying she's been cleared by Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, where do you stand? As the Ethics and
Let's talk about the institutions here for a second and let them not get off the hook, quite easily. The simple question that it's impossible for them to act, and from where they sit, they are unable to execute their mandate until this thing called political will, which we'll exercise later. What exactly is that? Bridge that gap for me. Political will and what you have in law, what you have in office and resources to act.
In my opinion, I think the president has what we call political appointees. He doesn't need any, all these strategies and bureaucracy to have them in line. The president has a majority in parliament, which means he can marshal his troops to pass whatever it is that he wants to be passed. He has got the goodwill. He is a president, for crying out loud sake. He can call anybody. He can call people. We're not saying that now we introduce a nation, a kangaroo nation, but we are saying that just by exercising authority and saying that I will not allow corruption in my house means that everybody else will fear. The story of those monkeys who were put there and were poured water on them for many, many years, and some of them were removed. When the rest came, they were not able to climb the ladder because the fear of climbing the ladder reminded them of cold water. So if the political appointees, we can pour cold water of sacking them, telling them, take a walk and go away. Anybody else who comes in that office will exercise a level of respect for the office that they're holding than we've ever seen before. But we've never seen anybody being fired. Actually, we've seen them being received at home as heroes. Hail, you are a hero because you've stolen enough, now come, that we may make you a queen or a king, and you may be one of us, that you can now go and vie for the highest office in land. Unless we stop that, it doesn't matter what else we say. We can blame the DCI, we can blame the DPP, we can blame everybody, but unless we have a political goodwill where we strike when the iron is hot, it doesn't matter.
Ramadan, I'm still, pulling from the president's, corner. And the question is this. The fact that all these institutions have been empowered, all right, and they've been given resources. There's nothing that stops them from acting. What stops them? Do they need President Uhuru Kenyatta to show up at the DCI's office for them to say, do not charge this man with abuse of office?
Before Ramadan answers you that, I'll tell you this. When you have a president who says, give me a list of corrupt people, I'll take it to Parliament, and these state officials are telling you, this list is not complete, okay? This list at some point contains names of people who died a long time ago. Please don't take it to Parliament. Then you take it to Parliament. What are you supposed to do, Smart?
Well, 20 seconds. You know.
But you see, the president we have is full of contradictions. Those institutions that seem to work so hard and pinch, like the Auditor General's office, is ridiculed by the same president. What do you expect the other offices, like DCI office, to act, to seek favors from the state? And again, president has his henchmen who always pull strings in these institutions.
Let's keep
giving
talking
it resources and giving it power. It's a whole separate thing.
About those henchmen, Ramadan and Danish and Smart. Meanwhile, the Cabinet Secretary for Health, Cleopas Mailu, and his PS, Nicholas Muragori, were at pains today when they failed to disclose the mysterious auditor who cleared the ministry of any wrongdoing. Members of Parliament questioned the ministry narrative that no monies were lost. In fact, during the internal audit queries, the internal queries have fully answered, and Mwilu expressed this frustration over what he says is the failure by the internal auditor to avail to him the final report, which the government has been saying it has an interim report, but they're working on this final report. Let's listen in to the CS Health.
I'm afraid to tell this committee up to today, the head of internal audit has not been able to give us a final report based on our own responses. But of course, we know the circumstances under which we are dealing with this report. That having been said, as a ministry, we moved forward to be able to engage the public and the country in terms of what has happened. And on 26th, we issued a press release assuring the public and any concerned party that we shall deal with the matter and see what we can do in respect to that document.
Smart, you go first. I mean, I listened to the CS today, and this man, I mean, I respect his credentials. He's been a sterling man at the helm of this ministry. Where he was in private sector, you know what he has done. But this man shows up in Parliament, and the best he can tell us for more than 1 hour is what the ministry has been telling Kenyans. One press release after the other. But the ministry, up until now, has not given us a final report, because the DPO has been on record saying this was an internal audit done by internal auditors. This was our work. We did it, but someone leaked it to the media. What is going on?
Dennis, I think we don't know what's going on. First, the problem we have is this matter is being somehow handled by EACC, somehow being handled by Parliament, National Assembly, then you have the Senate, then you have, the DC and everyone. So it's just a convoluted mess as it is, and of course, the eyes of the media and the public. And I think where the minister and the mandarins at the health ministry are sitting and what the difficulty they find themselves in is that coherence of what exactly are they saying, all right? Are they saying that money was not lost? And are they saying that it was wastage of funds or misappropriated funds? They are caught in that, and you find that in Cleopas Mailu's submissions, that he's absolutely not clear to tell you, no money was lost, and I can tell you and I can prove it to you in 1 hour. No money was not lost. That is.
It's amazing. It's a circus that will go on and on and on and on and on unless we just become serious, jail one person, jail one big fish. Let's have them shown in their striped uniform at committee, being served that nasty meal they give other, chicken thieves. That is the only day we will be able to. But let me bring a more fundamental question. Why are Kenyans not angry at this whole saga? Why was it that we just became angry for 1 week and then all of a sudden now we're now being moved to Trump and the American elections? Why is it that 5 billion shillings is in question, that money cannot be accounted for? The letter said it was around 3.1 billion shillings. It doesn't matter. If a coin that is meant for my child, a coin that is meant for me, a coin that is meant for that poor child that is living on 2,000 shillings a month is lost, we must hold political leaders accountable. Why can't we suspend him? Why can't we suspend the PS? Why can't we suspend a few people in that office to show the world that indeed we are acting? But here we keep on having earthquakes of scandals every now and then, but then we are able also to still attend them and have a public inquiry.
Ramadan, why can't we have this fella suspended? I mean, we suspended Anwar Guru, no, we suspended many other cabinet secretaries, and then we forced Anwar Guru to resign from office.
I think in any working democracies or where people take governance issues very seriously, the PS will have resigned the first day the scandal came out, so as to pave way for investigation. The minister who was responsible at the time is now in transport. He's still there serving. Those are guys who should be out of office. You can't tell me that investigation can go on and you get investigators still asking the same guy who has been accused of stealing and is still there in the office, and you say that he can give you a file to use to prosecute him. That's impossible. In fact, it's a cover-up. The more he sits there, the more he covers everything. No trail will be found. So we'll end up not having a scandal at the end of the day.
Smart, the CS is saying he can't act on this report because the internal audit has let him down. He has not given him the final report. And this is a government that said we will explain how these monies were used.
Dennis, this confusion, I'm not a fan of, the stepping aside and, stopping, because I think they mask a big problem. They mask the question of what money is actually lost. Because when someone walks away, then the whole public is like, okay, so justice was done. I'm a big fan of getting to the root and the substantive question. The question you're facing today is, did we misappropriate funds at the Ministry of Health? Or did we, as the country, knowingly give the national government powers to go and acquire some clinics or something that we know that we're not going to use? Those are substantive questions. And us rushing, and what I think the parliamentary committees are doing in the end is by them not being able to help us to answer these questions, are muddying the waters. They're just, throwing every manner of things. And by the time the public, looks at the CS and the PS, they're like, possibly there's scandal there, but we don't know exactly what it is, but something is wrong. And then the media loses interest, and then we move on. So it's a whole...
It's the same thing that happened to Anwar Guru. Anwar Guru has been on the spot for a very long time. Yeah. She showed up in Parliament, and suddenly there was this feeling across the country, maybe this woman is saying the truth. Maybe this lady has been saying the truth.
Because it takes us a bit of time to resolve matters. Our investigations take centuries for them to come to a close. By that time, they've already sanitized their names, they've already cleansed every single sin they did. And, really, even if they come out, you look at them and say, oh, you are an angel, actually. Sorry, we've been calling you the devil. But I think, James, it is very possible for us, for a public official to step aside as the first remedy, as the investigations go together. So those things can go hand in hand. They don't have to be mutually exclusive remedies to a corrupt system. We can have guys stepping aside, but we can also unearth the truth and tell Kenyans whether this money was lost, whether this stuff that were bought.
Ideally, it's very difficult to investigate someone who's still in office. Yeah. Very difficult. He will frustrate you all through. So
leave the powerful people.
Yeah, he will frustrate you.
And the money is involved $1 billion.
Yeah.
That's a matter that, continues to exercise the mind of the public. But let's continue and now to some politics. And Martha Karua, her, the woman who walked out on former President Daniel Moi and successor Mwai Kibaki, has now told her supporters that they have a right to vote for Uhuru Kenyatta. Media had claimed Karua outrightly threw her weight behind Kenyatta's re-election bid, I beg your pardon, but did she? Take a listen.
I will not be in the presidential race. My people know where they want to cast their vote, and I'm telling them, yes, it is okay to vote me governor in Kenya and to support the president in Jubilee.
Dennis, you are first to go at this. Did Martha Karua outrightly, or did she say support Uhuru Kenyatta for second bid? What's your interpretation of that?
I've listened to the former CS and party leader, and she didn't say that.
What did she say, in your view?
She did not even imply.
No, but
she not even implied. I mean, and I think she finds herself in a very bad place. If she comes out and says...
Before you explain yourself, Dennis, Ramadan wants to take you on.
It's shocking. If you say today that you are supporting President Uhuru Kenyatta, it means you are supporting Jubilee.
She has not said...
That's what she said.
But what has not said
for her to win, what is wrong with her?
She's not saying that.
She's been known to stand for some ideal,
if
some
my supporters,
some rule of law.
Hunger knows.
She has.
Hunger knows no ideals, my brother.
Hunger.
Hunger knows no ideals. Political hunger
shocking,
knows no ideals.
Shocking
Ramadan,
that she can just...
Ramadan, from where you sit, where did she outrightly, or did she say, I support Uhuru Kenyatta? What did she say today?
didn't say that.
What's
She
your
said-
interpretation of what happened today?
One thing she says one, that I'll vie for governor on my NAC ticket, but my people can
Vote.
Yes.
Which is
vote
okay.
for
So
the
is
president.
that an endorsement to Uhuru Kenyatta?
Yes, that's a direct endorsement.
Brilliant.
Whether she implied it or not.
She's not bringing
she's
any new
supporting-
voters on the table.
She's supporting Uhuru Kenyatta and Jubilee
Kirinyaga
administration.
is JP.
That she's
Damu.
been-
Whether she endorses Peter Kenneth or Raila Odinga, it doesn't matter what she says. It's a JAP zone. This lady is only being smart, a political smart. She's been in the cold for a while. The time to come back and do something great for the people of Kirinyaga is now. And for me, I don't think there's anything wrong with anybody endorsing with their favorite candidate because we have got different worldviews.
No, has she changed the ideals? You see,
Which
she had
ideals
this
are you
day
talking
on
about?
Jubilee.
She was with Mwai Kibaki. She stepped out. She came back, really, and now she's come back to the fold.
So let me hang on, Razab, let me ask you. So supporting Uhuru Kenyatta
Means have no idea.
means that she's dropped her deal? Is that what's supposed to mean?
That's what it means. She's been at the forefront,
What-
criticizing President Uhuru over corruption, over...
But Rajab,
The human rights record?
fighting corruption is not a party agenda. It's a
That's a
government
governance
agenda.
issues.
It's a
Which-
government issue.
Yes,
it's a
governance
issue.
issues, yes.
Right. So her party is not in coalition with Uhuru Kenyatta, is not coalition with CORD, but she can work with whoever that deems fit.
And
With the
I think-
political
And I think we must
realignments
give
of
her
the
that
day.
She's already
liberty.
sold
We
her
must
soul
give her that
anyway.
liberty to do that because at the end
Anyway,
of the
she
day,
has the democratic
it's all about
right.
selfish
But-
interest.
but-
You must know that at the end of the day, it's about service to the people. It's about people's choices.
She
And our
sold
worldviews are
herself.
very different. To somebody else, Uhuru Kenyatta is a saint. To somebody else, it's not a saint. So to Martha Karua, she's basically giving her fans the leeway to support Uhuru Kenyatta, which they're going to support him
And
whether
give her an
accept-
opportunity
Yeah.
and a chance to get the governorship of Kirinyaga.
And to
Dennis.
come back, yeah.
No,
What's the problem
no,
with this?
I agree, but remember, she'll be facing this other lady who has been here for some time now, and
A wounded
from a
lioness.
powerful. I mean, as powerful as Mother Karua was when she was in government. Now they'll be meeting out in Kirinyaga to battle it out. But I wish her well. She's moved on, but there's nothing about ideals, as it were, in this country, Smart. It's about interests. That's where we get ourselves. If Americans stood for ideals, then we'll be having someone in power at the moment. But if people stand for something else, then give it to them, Ramadan. Give them a chance. Give her a chance to...
And I think the word ideal
brilliant.
is quite overrated.
Because
ideals are very overrated because my ideals are different from yours and they're different from... The four of us have 4 different ideals. Martha Karua has her own ideals. But for me, my main issue is this. This lady has been jobless for a while now. Think about what is going on. Having been in power all those years, the most powerful minister during Kibaki's era. Now she finds herself in the cold. I'll do everything in her powers to go back to power. I'll do everything.
Smart.
Well, for me, I think it's very simple. We have someone who wants to represent her people. She understands, the issues of Kirinyaga people because she comes from there, and she's giving herself the best of chance to step on that platform and, get a chance to get the vote of our people.
In short,
I don't think there's a problem with that.
In short, she's just hungry for power.
If she stayed in court, she'd
Is
still
that-
be
Rajab,
That's-
every politician, there's no politician who's not hungry for power. The
Even
reason
you.
people enter into politics is so that they can get into power. No one is in
She's
politics
just
to
hungry
stay
for
in the
power.
opposition.
She's already sowing her ideas.
Gentlemen, we must take a break at this point. But before we do, we're asking you tonight, do you think President Uhuru Kenyatta has powers to fight corruption? Do you think the head of state has powers to fight corruption? Tweet me at Dion Sarigo at James Smart. We'll sample some of your comments after this short break. Do not go far.